Well, as you guys can see, it's a nice sunny day here today. My Go app isn't working right now. It looks like the server's down, so I can't keep track of my walking steps and stuff like that. But yeah, I still get my exercise and stuff anyways, regardless. Actually, I thought I would walk around the park where normally there was a ton of open fields and stuff like that, where in my opinion it was safe to fly a drone, because one of the things I wanted to talk about today was that the point about the government or Transport Canada wanting people to phone 911 for like drone flights. So I thought this would be kind of interesting. But some funny news I was reading as I left the house. Okay, am I missing something? What's with this the earth is flat talk and stuff going around here? I was reading all this stuff apparently Shaquille O'Neal and stuff like that is insisting that the world is flat, and there's videos about it and all stuff. What am I missing here? Did something happen all of a sudden? I would assume he's just being sarcastic, correct? How did this trend even start? Oh my goodness, are we going back to the Stone Age or something like that? I'm no scientist, but I would assume if the Earth was flat, for example, then wouldn't that technically mean if you're traveling from one end to the other, you'd fall off the edge and so forth? Oh, the interesting things you learn on a day-to-day basis. And speaking of going backwards, actually, in relation to drones and all that, I mean, as you all know, the recent laws here in Canada made it so that recreational flyers virtually can't fly anywhere. And one of the quotes from, if that's how you pronounce his name, Marc Garneau, maybe I'm butchering it, but he was saying he was having nightmares and stuff like that of, a drone hitting an airplane, causing a crash and so forth. And so because of that, immediately he had to throw up these laws, which in my opinion, it's really outdated, misguided. It just sounds like someone who's never really flown the hobby, just relying on third-party information on how people, use these drones and so forth. And because to me, the facts weren't really presented in any way, actual data, I was actually curious in seeing, okay, how many crazy drone accidents were there, with an actual drone to kind of start up this controversy? Was there something recent that happened? Because I even know in the US apparently there's been many cases where say a pilot or something like that reports, hey, it's a drone there, when in reality it turned out to be something completely different. But I was reading this story that popped out about apparently unfortunately there was 2 plane crashes with some pilots. It was somewhere farther east in Canada, but apparently they had all the communications and so forth. They were a mile away saying, hey, what's your height? What's your height? But apparently for some reason they still crashed. And I was thinking, this thing happened actually, if I'm not mistaken, based on the date of this article, one day after he announced this. If this was a drone related accident, oh boy, the media or whatever would have been eating this up, wouldn't they? I was thinking, how come this one wasn't reported as widely, in terms of mainstream and all that? But that just shows you, for example, you could have all the rules you want, for those aviation people. I mean, accidents happen, you have to take precautions, but does it necessarily need to be that extreme? I mean, if you say, for example, Garneau, you're here to protect the people, I mean, are you staying up every night now because of that accident? Are you going to say, for example, every type of those flyers should be banned now? I mean, in my opinion, something that big is way more dangerous than my puny, Mavic Pro just flying to get some, aerial videos for fun and so forth. I don't mean to be too critical because, accidents happen, that's just the way it is. But people often say, with stuff like this, don't you have, better, bigger fish to fry or more worrisome things to worry about, a hobbyist that flies it safely and all that? And this is kind of the example. I mean, is it fair for me to say, for example, you as the Transport Minister, you wasted all your time worrying about someone like me flying less than 90 meters in the air in an open field, yet you have here people with all those guidelines, communication, and they still crashed. But again, to me, there's a clear difference between people that fly in those heights and so forth versus a hobbyist that keeps it so low and so forth. I mean, if you want to go after the few bad apples, go after the few bad apples. Don't typecast everyone into the same category. And in some funny ways, it reminds me of, have you guys ever seen that TV show Undercover Boss? That's what it reminds me of, say, a CEO or whatever that's so out of touch of their own company and the way it works because they're in the boardroom all day. And it's not until they actually become the regular employee and stuff, then they realize okay, this is ridiculous, we need changes. Okay, here's my first example of say, an empty field and so forth, if you guys can see here. Like, should not realistically this be okay, like, to fly a drone? I mean, why would people have an issue with that here? But of course, there are like birds and stuff up in the trees here. I mean, doesn't that seem a little silly? Like to say you can't fly in a place like this? I mean, even walking for a bit now, again, you can see here even more like empty fields and so forth. But even I can hear like an animal nearby right now, so again, to me, it just makes absolutely no sense. Like in terms of why you're restricting a hobbyist, for example, or a recreational flyer from flying in places like this. Because one of the points I wanted to talk about today, which people haven't been talking too much about in terms of the new regulations and stuff, one of the deals are people are saying like it's ridiculous to make it a crime to actually fly something. I mean, just for the example, the rules here, as you know, it's if your drone or whatever you want to call it, model aircraft and so forth, is over 250 grams, then if you don't abide by those rules, technically it's a crime. You can get fined for it. And you can even see here, right on the Transport Canada site, they actually encourage people to phone like 911. I mean, take a look at this. Let's put it in perspective. Let's say you're flying like a little tiny 250 gram drone here in this empty field. I can easily imagine actually like some grumpy person for some reason, like that's so far away saying, I see a drone there, let's call 911. I mean, did you really think about this? Like when you made this law, so to speak? I mean, I referenced back to like the story I read the other day about the airplanes crashing. Isn't that more big of a concern? Shouldn't that what your focus be on? Not on ridiculous stuff like this, because let's face it, there are like grumpy people in the world, or like outdated, if that's what you want to call it, mindsets, where people like basically fear what they don't know. And I can easily see here, it doesn't matter if someone's minding their own business and so forth, people will phone like, 911 just for stupid stuff like that. I mean, in my opinion, like maybe it's just me, but I would assume most taxpayers want their money and resources for 911 spent on actual emergencies, not on people having fun, like just taking videos and so forth of the nature and scenery. I mean, I would expect this in certain countries, but not in Canada, honestly. Actually, one point too, if Canadians do have like the mentality of, the laws are stupid and like, just go with it and see what happens. I mean, it kind of contradicts what that Garneau guy said, where his point of doing this was, you want to do this before something crazy happens. I mean, at the same time, like for these laws, why should you have to wait until there's like some abusive, cop or judge or crazy like, fellow citizen who abuses the process of phoning like 911 like crazy, charging like a max fine of $3,000? Like, why do you have to wait for some like ridiculous story like that to actually come up before you like adjust the laws to something that's reasonable and sensible? Like if a person's perception of a drone is that, it can carry weapons and so forth, then you should, in my opinion, the government be spending time to educate people and to work with the hobbyists and all that. I mean, I understand the points of, hey, if thing goes crazy and if something goes wrong, it'll crash and so forth, but I don't think that's a valid reason to have such ridiculous laws, because I can say the same thing about a dog. If you walk a dog in a park, for example. For example, how many stories have there been in the world where, for example, like for a dog, even as trained as it is, where the owners thought everything is secure and so forth, that dog just went crazy and went to like, bite a child or something like that, or someone out in the public. I mean, those type of things you can't control, but in my opinion, like that's no reason to say like, hey, dogs are banned, for example, like from walking in any type of public area. Like, to me, that's a little too far-fetched. It's fear-mongering, and it's not the right way to do it. Same thing with these drones. All right, again, I don't actually have my batteries and stuff anyways for my drone, so it kind of worked out for all these life events and so forth. So I guess just for practice, and since, it's sunny and all, since I have a ton of old footage, let's just try editing some stuff and practicing a little bit of the color correcting and stuff. Alright, just one other interesting thing I found today. Apparently I saw that some people were actually taking my videos, basically copying it and uploading it into their own like personal channels and stuff. I'm gonna bring this up too because it's reminding me of these petitions and stuff and how there seems to be quite a few of them, and if everyone actually banded together, it'll probably make a lot stronger statement. Because for things like this, you obviously do need like, you know, thousands and thousands of people, otherwise it doesn't look like anything, a few hundred signatures. So if your goal, like for these videos where you're trying to spread the message, it's more effective for you to, example, link and share, for example, like the source, as opposed to just trying to rip it and put it into your own like area. It's not as effective as having like everyone in one concentrated area. Interesting vlogging journey so far, huh guys? That's why I said it's interesting to actually just document your whole journey and stuff like that. Because in many ways it is about the journey. Alright, see you guys later.